What's up, everyone? How's it going? Hopefully you're doing well during the holiday season. Welcome back to Real Lord Reviews, or welcome for the first time if you're just checking out the channel. I am John Lord, and with Christmas coming up in just a week, now seemed as good a time as any to dive deep into checking out some of the holiday classics and the underrated hidden gems that I've just never gotten around to checking out. And today on the list is Krampus from 2015. And this one kind of surprises me that I've never checked it out. Horror is my favorite genre. I absolutely love Christmas movies, and I'm a really big fan of the I'm a really big fan of the director's previous work, Trick or Treat, the Halloween anthology series. I thought that one was just tremendous. But for whatever reason, I just never got around to checking this one out, and I finally did last night. And I gotta say, I'm kind of disappointed in myself for not doing it sooner. But before we get into the good, the bad, and everything in between, please be sure to like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff that will help this channel and the video get out there and grow. I really much appreciate it. Yeah, let's get into it with the pros. First, and most importantly, this movie has a great Christmas atmosphere. It has a lot of the traditional flavors of holiday flicks, focusing on a dysfunctional family that just can't seem to get along very well, while being very unconventional in terms of the horror and fantastical elements it has going on throughout it. And I think it's a lot more rewatchable than most other horror movies, especially Christmas horror movies, because it finds the right tone and it never devolves into being too mean-spirited or miserable. It's a horror, but it knows how to have fun. And going along with that, I like that this is not just a straight-up slasher movie like most other holiday horror movies seem to be. They usually just seem to be, here's your holiday, here's your victims, here's your killer. Go. This one actually builds out the mythos of Krampus, and I really like what they do here. I like the elves, or what are supposed to be the elves, I'm assuming, and I especially really like a lot of the demented toys. My favorite being the Jack-in-the-Box. That actually kind of creeped me out a little bit. I would not want to go in my attic and see that. The cast here is actually a lot of fun, too. You have Adam Scott, who you might know from Parks and Rec, or Severance. He's really good. You got Toni Collette, who is great, especially in horror movies. David Koechner's kind of just doing the David Koechner thing, and it works fine here. You got the maid from 2.5 Men. I can't remember her actual name. She's kind of doing her usual shtick, and it works just as well as the Koechner thing. You got Molly Solverson from Fargo. That was a really nice treat to see, because Fargo's the only thing I've ever seen her in, and I thought she was tremendous in that. Just a lot of fun all around. Even a lot of the kid actors seem to do pretty well. There's some great directing and some really tremendous cinematography going on. I thought I was going to stumble over that word. It really helps to make the movie visually pop. It's set in just one location. We're inside this house pretty much the entire time, and that can get boring really quickly, but they do enough things to innovate and freshen them up throughout the movie that it never feels like you're just stuck in the house. It always feels like there's something going on that's engaging. And I really like bottleneck, single location, like horror thriller movies, so I think they did really well with that here, and the winter aesthetic especially helps it stick out. Despite not being a big fan of CGI, and this movie does use some, I think they actually use it pretty well. It doesn't look anywhere near as dog shit as it does in a lot of movies, even movies that have come out in the last year or two, and this one's 10 years older, and they manage it really well. I really like the effects going on here. And even though I'm also not much of an animation guy either, I actually also enjoyed the grandma's flashback backstory with her ties to Krampus and everything. I thought that was really well done. And my final pro is I really enjoyed the ending here. I actually was starting to get annoyed because I thought they were going to do it was all just a dream type ending, and I'm really thankful they didn't go to that. And the ending they went with, I actually really like a lot, because there's two different ways I think it could go, then I can't really decide which one I actually think it is. don't want to spoil anything, even though it's a 10-year-old movie. I still highly recommend you go check this out before you go into any spoilers or anything. I think it was a really nice treat. And on to the mixed. And my only thing for this category would be that there's almost no gore here. Now, I'm not a gore hound. It's not something that has to be in horror movies to make it good or anything. It's never a necessity for me. And I do think that helps this movie be a bit more accessible to people who are more squeamish or act as an entry-level horror movie for beginners. But I do wish there was a bit more here. It's a lot of screams and then cutaway type kills. But I have not seen the naughty cut. I don't know what the big difference between that and the version that I watched would be, but I just haven't checked it out yet to know the difference. Now into the cons. While I don't have many cons for this movie, there are just a few. In particular, there definitely is some pacing issues. The beginning feels like it's dragged out a little bit too much. I understand you have to build up the family and the dynamics and the relationships between everybody, but it just kind of felt like a melodrama before all the horror stuff started kicking in. And going along right with that, I think the middle part actually drags a bit as well. After they have the houses boarded up and they're kind of on the lookout, I feel like once again it kind of sits back for a little too long to breathe. There's definitely nothing wrong with having a lull before kicking it back into gear, but I think they just took a little bit too long to do that. Some of the relative characters are a little bit on the weaker side. They're not really given anything to feel relatable or like real people in general. They're just kind of people who are there to add to the body count. And lastly, while I enjoy this movie quite a bit, it doesn't feel like it quite reaches its full potential. Like, this to me feels like it should have been an all-time classic, like how Trick or Treat is. This one just felt like a step or two below that, despite having almost all the ingredients needed. For the bottom line, if you neglected to check out Krampus like I have, do yourself a favor and go watch it. It's an absolute blast. I am kicking myself in the ass for not having checked this out years prior. I probably would be watching this yearly. Like, I don't know what the fuck I was thinking. It's a fun-filled holiday gem that just quite misses its mark, but still you will not regret spending an hour and a half with Krampus. I would go 3 3/4 stars out of 5. So that's all for today. Thank you so much for checking out the video. We will be back on Sunday with another holiday horror review. What it will be, you'll just have to see. And I don't know if I'm supposed to say it a second time, but please be sure to like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you can, I would really appreciate it. Thank you so much. See you next time.